go ahead and move on to a little more Allen Robinson talk. The Bears, they put out a video this week trying to hype people up for 2021. They had Allen Robinson in the video that led to both Allen Robinson and his agent tweeting out the thinking face emoji, which, it's going to, what's going to happen in this Allen Robinson saga is going to be really interesting because apparently they haven't talked much about a new contract. Truthfully, I believe the reason for that is because they're trying to get the quarterback position figured out. Some people are saying he's asking for over $20 million a year, which is insane. Absolutely insane. Here it's really going to get down to I guess the main question that this segment is kind of going after is what should the Bears do with Allen Robinson? I'm going to let you start off, Reese.
Yeah, the best possible move, and it's the least exciting one, but it's that good old franchise tag, honestly. Mm-hmm. You know what? I think that at this point, you drop that franchise tag. Obviously, it's going to be cheaper than that $20 million plus price that he's been asking for, which I honestly don't think he's worth. Which, some people do, some people don't. That's fine. I think that you drop the franchise tag on him, you give him this next year with whoever this new quarterback is going to be. And, if he is truly worth it, truly worth this $20 million plus contract, he will ball out and play for it. Because that's what players that are great and that deserve that big contract do when they're on a franchise tag. They hate being underpaid for what they're worth. So I want to see him go out there and ball on that franchise tag, and ball on a budget. Yeah. I think that's ultimately what the best move for this Bears team would be. I would say, my little sneaky workaround devil's advocate answer would be get rid of him and sign someone that's going to be equally as good and has a higher upside, in free agency. But at the same time, insert, Kenny Galladay's name there, insert, more hate. But at the same time, I think that, what the Bears organization is likely to do is tag them because they're not the one to make an aggressive move like that and try to swap receivers. So they're going to try to go for the sure thing and tag them. And, we'll see exactly how that works out and how Allen Robinson and his agent respond. They might not sit for that, but honestly, if Allen Robinson ends up being a type of person that's going to hold out, I would honestly probably laugh at that.
Yeah. We don't even need to talk too much about Allen Robinson as a player. My core issue with shelling out a $22 million contract, like some people are saying he's asking for, is that this offense has been terrible and we have so many other needs along the offense at so much more impactful positions than receiver. First off, we need a damn quarterback. So, that could range us up to $40 million. We're already under the cap right now. I don't know how the hell we'd even possibly swing that. Obviously there's a lot you can do with the cap and there's players that we can cut. But let's talk about that first. And then also, our offensive line has been pretty terrible these past 2 years. I think I would much rather see the Chicago Bears go out and get a major key free agent offensive lineman like someone like a Trent Williams, who is probably, the second best left tackle in all of football. Obviously has a little bit of character issues that has led to him, moving some certain places. But that freak of nature left tackle would definitely be, our team's franchise left tackle. You're going to sign him for the same contract number, probably like $22 million a year, if not even a better deal. And that's a way more impactful position. Obviously, receiver, it is a position that's important. You look at the Bucs, they just, look at the receivers they have with Mike Evans, who, 1,000 yards in each of his first 7 seasons. Insane. Godwin, who's going to be a free agent. There's a lot of teams that have really good wide receivers, and it helps them a lot, but you got to get that offensive line hammered out first, because that just impacts the passing game and the running game. And if that's the goal, is like, hey, we are going to let Allen Robinson walk, but we're going to use that money to put it towards our quarterback and offensive line, I'm down for that plan. Guys like Allen Robinson, Bears fans are going to throw a fit just like they did with Jordan Howard when he left. I mean, he has
good
done
riddance.
nothing. Yeah, he's done absolutely nothing since leaving. People act like Jordan Howard getting traded is like being a Raiders fan when Khalil Mack was traded. But then also, I mean, Ryan Pace in the past has shown he didn't really care too much about keeping receivers around. I mean, Alshon Jeffrey walked. Obviously, Bears fans also hated that move. Same with trading Brandon Marshall. But it ended up working in the long haul for sure. But ultimately, I think what I would do if I'm Ryan Pace right now is I would tag him, because you can remove the franchise tag too up until a certain point. I would tag him, kind of see how free agency goes. And then at that point, make the decision of, after you know what's coming available in free agency and who you could get, then, if he's not going to play, lift the franchise tag or trade him. I mean, we can definitely get we'd get a 3rd round compensatory pick for Robinson. I'm guessing at this point, we probably could get like a high 3rd round, maybe even a 2nd round pick for Robinson in a trade, which with all this team needs, I mean, you have to think if we, for instance, added Trent Williams and then also got a 2nd round pick for Allen Robinson and drafted, let's say, a guy like center Creed Humphrey, one of the best centers in the draft. I mean, that's a completely different offensive line. That completely rebuilds 2 key positions. So you kind of got to think about it yes, ideally I'd like to keep Robinson, but there's other factors that play into it.
Yeah. And I think that, to kind of hit the point home, the money can be best spent elsewhere. And the money that I'm talking about is the money that'd be the difference between that franchise tag and the $22 million, 20 whatever $million contract that would be spent. And, I know there's a lot of Bears fans out there that are calling for Allen Robinson to be kept, but there's also a lot of people calling for them to rework that offensive line. And,
can't do both.
You can't really do both, unfortunately, unless, you can make some minor improvements by just tagging him and then hopefully signing someone with whatever is left over in excess. But you're not going to be able to get Trent Williams that way. So, yeah. Like you said, I mean, we can move on after this point. But, yeah, whether it's Alshon Jeffrey, Matt Forte, Jordan Howard, Bears fans always have a tough time giving up the players that, have got them to a very mediocre level.
Yeah, very true. And honestly, as much as people want to hate on Pace, he's done a pretty good job of self-scouting when to let players walk, when to keep players. I mean, really, Alshon Jeffrey had like 1 good year after we let him walk with the Eagles, I know. But he still hasn't been anything particularly special, especially with the contract that he ended up getting from the Eagles. And then, obviously Jordan Howard, letting him walk. They do they do a pretty good job with the internal scouting. I know Robinson's a young guy and he's high upside, but they might go out there and see, certain other guys that are reminiscent of Allen Robinson when he came into the Bears, which he didn't nearly come with the same resume, but, put up about the same production. So we're going to have to go ahead and check that out. I liked Allen Robinson. I still remember the day he signed here when he posted the picture of him in a Bears jersey. And, that was like the first good free agent the Bears had gotten in years. So it's going to be sad to lose him, but
hey guys, like our video, subscribe, and check out our bi-weekly podcast on Apple Podcasts. Thanks.